Well, it's George Russell's world. We're all just living in it. 2 from 2 for Formula One wins in 2026 for the Mercedes man. That was 19 laps of racing, and there was a lot going on, a lot to discuss. It is Mercedes that once again get the win with George Russell. How about that? Our first sprint of 2026, and it certainly delivered an awful lot. Jolyon Palmer and Ruth Boscombe with me here in the paddock. Nice sprinting down to make it here, Jolyon. It was touch and go, but you've made it.
Security let me through the door today, so we'll have that battle again later. But hey, there was a lot going on there.
There was a lot going on, Ruth. Let's talk about it. George Russell, once again, getting the win. It's not easy for him, but he's getting it over the line. What impressed you the most?
What impressed me the most from that race was actually some of the wheel-to-wheel action we saw from Sir Lewis Hamilton. Actually, I mean, George did a great job, got it off the line. We saw his teammate struggle, so it's by no means a slam dunk win. He's got the fastest car, but he did execute under pressure. I have to say, what I loved the most about that was seeing some of the moves that Lewis pulled, especially around the first corners around here. You know, and that balance of performance we saw with managing the tyres and then seeing drivers come through towards the end. There was strategy calls. We had Liam Lawson nailing it on a hard tyre to come through to P7. I loved it. There was loads to unpack.
Yeah, grabbing the points. Jolyon, let's talk about George Russell first, and then we will get on to Ferrari because there's a lot to unpack there as well. George Russell has now led every session from FP3 in Australia to now. That dominance is real, isn't it?
Yep, definitely is. I'd say he's the best driver in the best team right now. In terms of, best driver, he's getting the most out of these cars. I think his understanding of the technicalities, the finer details is pretty immense, actually. So much of the world right now is orbiting energy management. And, you know, as much as people might like it or not, he's very, very good at it. The race was a little bit more difficult. I think he still took a few laps to work out what he was going to do in terms of harvest the battery, not then pass Lewis to be passed back again. But as soon as he managed to clear Lewis and just hammer it through the middle sector instead of trying to recharge and falling back in towards him, he had enough to then steer clear for just one lap, get that 1 second difference, and he was gone. He's very, very difficult to beat.
Well, we'll have a look at what you're talking about in a second. But first, George Russell, happy man. Toto Wolff, very happy man. Here he is talking to Chris Medland.
Toto, it's been a pretty fruitful start to the season for Mercedes. Another win for George, but seeing as it wasn't a 1-2 for the first time, is there a bit of disappointment there?
No, I think it was a bit of a mistake from Kimi. He wasn't in the right mode at the start, and that can happen.
Well, that was painful for him, but he fought back to 5th place. For George, though, it looked like he had it under control, and to that final lap, there was some pressure. How close, really, do you think Ferrari are to you guys?
Very close, especially at the beginning. You can see that they are able to attack and go for it, and it's been a little bit the same in Melbourne, so you just need to factor that in.
You've been very calm and smooth, though, throughout every session normally, getting the results that you need today. Like I say, not the first time you haven't had a 1-2. Going into qualifying, you feel pretty confident, though, that you can lock out that front row again?
Never confident. I think the Ferraris have been close today, so we just got to give it everything, even if the margins sometimes look large.
All right, good luck in then.
Jolyon, I have told you, you have to stop shouting, Toto, you're a legend at him. Right, let's have a look at George Russell's race then. The start in particular caught everybody's eye, Jolyon. Talk us through this.
Yeah, Mercedes thought they'd be better off with the start this week, having learnt from last time out, and George kept the lead under big pressure from Lando. So Antonelli then in the wrong mode for the start, and he had his own troubles through the race. I loved that from Hamilton, down the inside on the first lap, just signal of intent, and I really like the way that Ferrari are going racing right now, but they don't have the car that Mercedes have got. Nonetheless, yeah, George come back through, Lewis recharging, Lewis coming back through, and a bit like I think we saw in Melbourne, every time Ferrari make a move, it just looks that little bit more heroic than Mercedes, because Mercedes have got more straight line speed, and you get that sort of reaction from George coming past Lewis at that time. So Ferrari have to be way more aggressive. Finally, we saw George bolt. They all chose to pit, all the front guys, for the new soft tyres. I think that was the smart move. That allowed Antonelli a better chance to serve his penalty as well. And in the end, actually, I thought Leclerc was probably the slightly faster Ferrari and kept George on his toes for the last couple of laps. But I still feel like Mercedes are comfortable right now. As much as that was a difficult battle, Russell once again having to work out how he's actually going to clear a Ferrari who is going to race him very, very hard. In a Grand Prix distance, I think the others have got more time, more learnings to take that fight over a race distance.
George Russell certainly looking very comfortable. Let's talk about Mercedes, dive into that a little bit. Ruth Buscombe, it looked like at the end Charles Leclerc really did close that gap, didn't he? But it was a bit too little too late.
Yeah, and actually, I thought it was fascinating. We had that safety car that came out for the stricken Cadillac, compressing the field. And my brain was going to Indianapolis 2023, where we've got this kind of like slipstream effect, where actually you're under huge pressure as the leader to defend, knowing that the gap is now definitely less than 1 second behind, knowing that the car behind you is going to have that overtake, which is, you know, the mushroom, as Charles Leclerc described it. And I think George did a great job on the restart to defend it. And it looked like Charles had a little bit of a snap, which ultimately meant that he didn't have that 1 second.
Charles Leclerc said over the team radio, the space, does Hamilton not know how small these cars are or how big these cars are? Jolyon, do you think Ferrari could have worked more as a team to try and win that sprint, or certainly try a little bit harder rather than battle against each other?
They definitely could have worked more as a team, but I don't think it probably would have made a difference to the outcome. I really enjoyed the fight. I loved the fact that they're swapping a few times just in one corner there. I said at the time I thought that was lovely, on the edge of respectful, but obviously Charles was not echoing my thoughts underneath the cockpit. It was a big squeeze, and I thought Lewis was particularly aggressive. This is the pass then. Leclerc down the inside, but he carries a lot of speed through. This is the one before, actually. So the next one is the time where Leclerc went down the inside, ran a little bit wide, burying that speed into turn one. It allows Lewis to come back through on the inside, and then they fought so hard through into turn three. Hey, they'll iron it out. They're two guys, and they're having to hustle to the absolute maximum.
Ruth, should they have worked together? Do they need to learn how to work together better?
No, I love that. I love watching that racing. It's the first sprint of the season. It's race 2. Everyone is learning on the job. And I personally really love watching them go wheel to wheel. And I agree with you, Jolene. I think it was respectful, great racing between the two Ferrari guys.
The alternative is that we're going to hear team orders, and Lewis is going to make way for Charles at that point. So I'll give you the option of team orders, where they finish second and third, or a great racy fight where they finish second and third. And I do think those two have still got respect for each other. I know Charles was saying, does he know how wide the cars are? But ultimately, we are seeing that they're willing to race each other really hard, but they draw the line at risking damaging the car.
What do you think Ferrari can learn from this going into qualifying later and then, of course, the race tomorrow?
It's difficult to know if they've actually got the power to race with Mercedes over the long run. I actually think they've given it a great shot with the car that they've got. I think Charles has got a lot more to optimise in qualifying. I'm sure we'll talk about that later on as we get to the hour later. The race starts are still pretty good. There are plenty of others that are not getting it right, and once again we're seeing the average for Ferrari being good. The raciness is fantastic, but can they keep George Russell, who's got more than half a second per lap in the bank in qualifying? Maybe it's less than that in the race, but can they keep him behind for that long? Tomorrow we're going to see strategy play a part as well, and if Mercedes can find clear air, they'll obviously be able to use the pace, which we saw in Melbourne. The one question mark is the tyres. And we heard Marcus Dudley, race engineer for George, saying Ferrari look like they're pretty good on their tyres, certainly with Charles at the end. So is that something with the longer stint that they can use? I'm not sure.
We'll dive into Ruth's incredible brain and find out more about the tyres. We'll talk a little bit about strategy, but George Russell winning the first sprint of the 2026 season. But Ferrari were asking a few questions. Ruth, can they keep these fast starts throughout the rest of the season?
They can, but I think we've just done a demo that right now it's not enough. I mean, if I'm Ferrari, what I've learned watching that is that, in terms of the pace and seeing how strong the hard was compared to the medium, degradation 5 thousandths on Liam and about 0.13 on the medium. I think they've got to go, Miami 2023. They've got to risk it all, do a complete reverse strategy, go on hard, bet everything against the house, and then they might be able to topple the mighty George Russell.
Do you agree with that? Julian?
I can't remember what happened in Miami 2023. I can't remember what happened in
Reverse
Indianapolis
strategy.
23. All of these references are going over my head right now. The world of Formula One has changed to where we're at right now.
It has. We're in a completely new era, 2026. Let's move on then and talk about Kimi Antonelli, Ruth, because he did really struggle on that start, didn't he? What went wrong for him?
I think a poor race, but we're just showing just how difficult it is. So, is he doing a bad job, or is George actually doing a really great job, along with the rest of the members of the Mercedes team? Wrong mode, and then I think not able to get the overtakes done as cleanly.
Okay, well, we're going to have a look through the story of that race with Jolyon Palmer. What a sprint that was. We only had 19 laps, but there was so much going on. We're going to get into all of it, but George Russell winning that first sprint of 2026 with a Ferrari second and third right behind him. Okay, let's have a deeper look, Jolyon, into that Kimi Antonelli. His story of the race, I guess. Really struggled at the start, sort of came back. What did you make of it?
Really scrappy, considering the serenity of his teammate. So we've just heard Toto saying that he was in the wrong mode for the start of the race then, and that's why he has a massive bog down. So it was a wheel spin last time out. This time it's a bog down, the same as Max. And immediately you're looking, where is he? Getting gobbled up by the midfielders now, and he's down towards the fringes of the top 10. So then you're fighting and you're trying to make up for it, and that's just medium tyres, not quite fired up to temperature. He's actually up against Hajar on a soft, and it's a significant contact that could have gone a lot worse. 10-second penalty. Well, maybe it's a bit harsh on the first lap, to be honest, but nonetheless, he's got away with it. Makes a few overtakes. Coming through the field, we saw how hard George worked to pass Lewis, so Kimi was in a similar boat, but managed to come through a little bit more cleanly, if anything. And then, this is the thing where you spend so much time as a Mercedes clearing these cars that then pass you back, that it's not like the days of old where you'd then just be able to build your 10-second buffer. So took the penalty, came through at the end. Still don't know why Piastri overtook him under safety car and why that was swapped back. So that is one of the bizarre things that we do not get from this edit, but we get the end result as he comes sweeping back past for a P5. And I feel like if you're Kimi, 19 years of age, has the money shot right now in Formula One at Mercedes. They are, by all accounts, going to win this championship the way that they're going right now. Who knows how it will go in 20 races' time. But he has to be maximising his point scores. He has to be trying to get underneath George's skin. And we've had 2 races now where he's not got off the line very well. He's had contact there that he's actually really lucky to escape from. He's served that penalty better than he might have done without the safety car to gain 1 more point. He kind of needs to bounce back and put a bit more pressure back on George, because there's a lot of things. Remember, Melbourne was going wrong because he crashed it in FP3. So a lot of scruffiness that he's basically got some decent pace, but he's not got the pace of George, and he's scrapping around trying to fight for it.
Why do you think that is?
I think George has been quicker for a long time. He's driving at a really, really high level. If you told me who was the top 3 drivers last year on pure performance, I think most people would put George in there. He's a top-line driver, and I think he's a really, really smart driver. When you look at some of his races of old, how he's calling things from the cockpit, this is now a world that suits him. Trying to work out things, being the sort of the engineer from the cockpit, and he's naturally talented, and I think he's got a brilliant handle on how to go quick in a 2026 Formula One car.
Yeah, well, I said it's his world, and we're all just living in it.
And the experience.
Yeah.
It counts for a lot.
It does indeed. Ruth, let's go back to Kimi Antonelli. Isaac Hajar said on the radio he doesn't understand why Kimi Antonelli is quite so aggressive when he's driving a rocket ship of a car like that. Do you think he's too aggressive?
Yeah, I'm sure if we listen to the transcript from his race engineer, they'd probably be saying, a little bit tranquilo, let the pace of the car do the work. You've got the rocket ship. You just need to reset, refocus. It's it goes against every single kind of instinct for a driver to not try to want to undo the mistake as soon as possible. But the reality is you do need to relax. It is just day 2 of race 2, but if this continues, I think there's a lot of other drivers that would like that seat right now, that want to make George Russell's day a little bit more uncomfortable. But let's see, he's got another chance this afternoon. If he nails tomorrow, nails today, we're not going to be having this conversation in 24 hours' time.
Yeah, also, it's ridiculously early to talk about anyone taking Kimi's seat. This is so early in Formula One. Everyone's learning about these cars. Having been in the situation where you have a bad start, you're then like eyes forward. You've got, Gasly's coming past. You've got Behrman coming past. You're thinking, what am I doing in a Mercedes fighting these guys on the first lap? This has gone wrong. Let's make amends for it. And you do just, it wasn't a massive lock-up and plunge into the side of Hajar. It was a little misjudgment where he's washed wide with understeer. It's little details that are going against him. And he's lost 3 points there. I think he probably could have got back to second potentially, but I think he's lost 3 points and he has a chance to regroup now. Everyone's got a little bit more learning. They've got a race conditions underneath their belt before tomorrow.
Well, bad start for Kimi Antonelli. Another driver that had a bad start was Max Verstappen. Here he is speaking now.
Max, that looked like a tricky start, dropping into the midfield and then tough to do anything from where you were in the sprint there.
Yeah, I had no power, probably a similar issue to what Liam had in Melbourne. But even after that, of course, I could make my way forward a little bit, but terrible balance, more degradation than the people around me in the midfield. Pretty much a disaster, I would say.
Thanks, Max.
Well, Max Verstappen just missing out on points there. What did you make of his day, or his morning, Ruth?
It's a continuation of what we've seen so far in that Red Bull. And what's worrying is the trend that's coming down. So I think that, that Ford engine, they've done a great job, first off, to come into F1, but it's down on power compared to the Mercedes. In terms of the grip limited area, it's down on grip. It's not the fastest car in the corners. The balance is off. And then, what is concerning is that the degradation of those tyres for last week in Melbourne and this week is higher than everybody else. You need something to fight with. Right now, they don't have any advantage over any of the competitors, and even Max Verstappen, again, a glitch at the start, same as his teammate had last week. What do you do?
I guess we shouldn't really have expected them to suddenly be on the pace. The cars haven't been able to be adjusted since yesterday. Now they can. And Red Bull are historically a really good team at learning and developing the setup through the weekend. And I do think a lot of their performance deficit is actually in the way that the car's working rather than the power unit, which is what we're talking about so many other teams. 2 seconds was pretty much the deficit they were off Mercedes. That's ridiculous for a team like Red Bull. The tyres is an issue for them. We've seen that already, as you say, through Melbourne. That's going to be something for tomorrow. They need to get the car back in a sweet spot. But basically, they just didn't have the pace for Max to do anything special.
How do they get the car back in a sweet spot?
Well, they're so... Right, it's so difficult. You've got 1 hour of practice here to get the car into the right window. But everyone's just busy getting the car on track for a 1 hour of practice and think about power unit, deployment. Do we want to go flat out on this straight? Do we want to go flat out on this straight? Do we decelerate here? Everything orbits around energy deployment. But when you then don't get the car in the right window because you're so focused on how you're driving it, the subtleties of braking and going on throttle and mapping of energy, you end up where you actually just don't have the car in the right window. Then you're not getting the tyres in the right window. You're getting a balance that's not giving you a lot of love back from the cockpit as well. And you sort of have to come back to basics a little bit, because then you drive the car differently and then you can deploy the energy differently as well. So when you have 1 hour of practice, it's really, really difficult for everyone to get on the top of it. I feel like Red Bull here have been a little bit caught short.
Yeah, Red Bull are certainly struggling. McLaren are up there in the mix in the top 4, though. Lando Norris just missing out on the podium. Here he is.
Lando, P4, Mercedes, Ferrari looking just a little bit quicker today. How are you feeling about that? How do you sum it up from your side?
I don't feel great about that. It sucks to not be as quick as them, but I think we did the maximum today. We gave it a good try. Just difficulty, especially when it's so cold as well. Difficult to get the tires working quickly, and the Ferrari could do that in a better way than we could, simply because they just have a little bit more grip at the minute. So we know where we're decent. We know where we're lacking. It's difficult to improve that much on our weak areas at the minute, but we made some progress, and we'll keep trying to improve on it. But today was the best we could achieve, so I'm happy with that.
Thank you.
So Lando Norris fairly happy with that, Jolyon, the best that he thinks they could possibly achieve. Do you agree with that?
I think when you look at the pace of the Ferrari and the Mercedes, they are naturally behind. He's ended up ahead of Kimi there. He's had an all right scrap. I think he's probably roughly correct. I think McLaren do just have that little bit more to find. I think they're learning a lot more about these power units as they go, whereas Ferrari and Mercedes have been way deeper into all of that over the winter, and McLaren are playing catch up.
Well, Lindblad, Bottas and Hulkenberg didn't manage to finish that race. But Ruth, it led us to a nice little strategy, didn't it? Talk us through that.
I don't know if we can fit all the strategy into this post-show, but the key theme in that race was that the majority of the cars started on the medium. The medium grained, as we expected, worse than we've seen it before. And then a safety car came out, which gave many cars, like the McLarens we saw there, a chance to box. That was the right call for them because the tyres, they wouldn't have been able to defend at the restart. We saw cars like Gasly, for example, opt not to stop under that, and then he lost positions as a result. What teams are going to learn from that is that basically the hard looks rock solid, which is great if you're a strategist because it gives you some kind of options for tomorrow.
Great for Ollie Behrman as well, right? Because he's got a lot of hard options for tomorrow.
Yeah, the format, most of the teams, including Behrman, in fact, Lawson's used one of his. Everybody else has got 2 hard tyres going into tomorrow. So the point that strategists and tyre engineers and drivers are all going to have to work on tonight is, do you expect the graining to stay poor? And then, in which case you might want to even start on a hard and try and run a reverse strategy and take that hit in terms of start performance off the start line? Or are you expecting it to get better? This track is one of the highest evolutions through the race. So a tyre like that medium that might not be great at the start of the race can be much better on lower fuel at the end of the race. But that is the number crunching they're going to have to do. And they'll get a lot of information back from the wear scans in a couple of hours' time.
As a layman, I quite like when you see all the cars on the grid, yellow tyres, yellow tyres, yellow tyres, yellow tyres, all of them on the medium. Okay, Hadjar on a soft, punchy, maybe trying to learn something for tomorrow. And then you see Lawson on a hard. And that's actually the best call for those guys. So how has he and how have Racing Bulls got that right and everyone else has sort of gone for the medium that wasn't as effective?
You know, I chatted to him yesterday and he was quite downbeat about his kind of expectations for today and said, you know, maybe we can try something different with strategy, knowing that everyone's going to go for the medium. Again, it's risk versus reward. I think if you're one of the leaders, there's more to lose and less to gain by rolling the dice. I think as a midfield strategy, they absolutely nailed it by using one of those hard tyres. They've kept the softs for qualifying. What they've lost is the opportunity to run 2 tomorrow, because if it's a Grand Prix where 25 points are given out instead of a couple if you're fighting for scraps kind of in the midfield, if there is another safety car tomorrow, you might need that tyre. But I think it was a great call by them.
Let me ask you, if Norris or the Ferraris went on a hard tyre, given how Lawson's managed to come past Gasly, past Behrman, he was out in Q2, he's finished 7th place. If a Ferrari or a McLaren started on the hard that looked better, do you think they could have taken the fight better to a Mercedes? Do they need to start thinking outside the box and not think cautious? Let's go aggressive on the strategy.
That's what I'm saying. Miami 2023. You've got to start.
You've got to start with these references, Ruth. I have no idea where they're going.
But yes, exactly that. That's exactly what I think. I think they have now seen the deficit to the lead is so big that you have to start taking more risk if you want to try to beat George, or do you want to play it safe and try to beat the cars around you? I think that's exactly what everyone is learning on the job today. And kudos for Racing Bulls for being one of the first teams today to take the risk. Yesterday we saw McLaren take the risk in qualifying and it paid off for them in their little battle with the Ferraris. I hope we get to see more risks tomorrow.
Oh, do you know what, Ruth? I'm sure we will. We've also got qualifying coming up later this afternoon. Guys, don't go everywhere. We are here in the paddock debriefing it all as Lewis Hamilton whizzes past us. So this is what we've got coming up for you this weekend. What a lovely weekend sat in front of your TV, if you ask me. George Russell wins again. He wins the first sprint of 2026. So we've got that done and dusted. On to qualifying then. We'll be previewing all of that from 2 local time, followed by our post-qualifying show. We'll be talking about it all, and then we'll be building up to the big one. The Chinese Grand Prix gets underway at 3 p.m. local time. Everybody lock in, eyes on those starts. This is going to be a good one, I hope. And then we've got the post-race show as well to come after that. Also, lock in your F1 fantasy, guys. I hope you're feeling very confident. I've forgotten to change mine, so that is not very good. Jolyon, have you got yours sorted?
Same.
Lovely stuff. Also, F1 Academy is going on this weekend, their first race of the season. You can catch all of that. Go on to the F1.com website, check in with the latest from F1 Academy, but lots going on here. Have you managed to check any F1 Academy out, Julian?
I have seen a little bit. Nice to see their season starting. Looking forward to the rest of it.
Yeah, indeed. They've got quite a few rookies on that grid. 11, I think, Ruth.
Yeah, I got to speak to Susie. She's so excited. Susie Wolf, CEO. Can't wait to see more racing.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are here in the massive paddock in Shanghai. The fans here were treated to a very interesting sprint race, the first sprint of 2026. We'll get into it again. Okay, so we are building up to qualifying now. We're turning our attention to qualifying. Jolyon, what are you expecting to see? What do you think these teams are going to go into qualifying looking to do? What are they doing now?
Finding some performance on the cars, and I actually think a lot of the energy deployment stuff would have been looked into last night on the debrief from the sprint qualifying. So yeah, now you got a chance to change the car setup. You can change, I mean, so much in a space of time now between the sprint and the race. So we will see if a team like Red Bull can find something, but I'm kind of more interested in whether McLaren can get a little bit closer learning with that Mercedes power unit.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting, wouldn't it, to see. Ruth, from a team's perspective, what's this gap like? Jolyon says there's lots you can change, but they don't have long, do they?
Nice. It's huge, Betty. And honestly, the jeopardy right now is massive. Everyone's got to be focused on their own thing. The strategists have got to be calculating their numbers. The soft does one lap before it starts to drop away. So you have to decide with your cutoff when you want to play that. If you take too much risk, you get knocked out in an earlier session. Not enough, you end up going through without any new tyres. Setup, we've got to tweak it. Drivers have got to be looking at onboards. There is so much jeopardy, I think, for everybody, except potentially Mr. George Russell, that seems to have this whole thing nailed.
Oh, he's chilling, feet up, George Russell, isn't he? Ruth, what would you have been doing as a strategist right now? What would you be doing?
Right now, I would be looking through all the numbers, trying to work out how fast my car is, and depending a bit like poker, what hand I have depends how I need to sequence in qualifying. And unfortunately, probably very little time to look at anything else or to have a nice lunch.
Jolyon, do you think McLaren are going to be feeling good going into qualifying?
I think they're closing the gap. I mean, we heard Lando saying that some of the changes they're not going to happen overnight. You know, they are difficult things, but I do think there's a level of energy deployment. You see the difference from the McLaren to the Mercedes. Can they look at the team that are winning with the same power unit and think, okay, we're learning so much more than they are right now because we have more to learn. So Norris can see maybe why Mercedes were chilling into turn 11. Let's try a little bit of that later. Remember, they only did one lap on soft tyres in qualifying. It's going to be back onto the softs, dialing through it, honing that setup, honing the details. Hopefully they'll be much closer. I still don't think they're going to get on par with Mercedes, who should be on for a front row lockout, I guess. Can Kimi get closer to George? That's the better question.
That's what we want to see, isn't it? Kimi getting close to George. George is absolutely loving life at the moment. That man is full of confidence. Let's hear what he's had to say after winning the sprint.
George, congratulations on the win. An eventful one, but you got there. How was it fighting the Ferraris out there today?
Yeah, it was dicey again. Lewis did a great job at the start and caught me napping. So yeah, need to work on that. And the sprint was fun. Normally the sprints are boring as a procession, and obviously the back and forth again. And I was always sure that I could pass him, but I was not sure I could keep the position. It felt very back and forth. So yeah, it was good.
Thanks, George.
It was certainly good, wasn't it? Seeing those two former teammates, George Russell and Lewis Hamilton, going head-to-head at the start. That is a good question, though. Good point, Jolyon, about Kimi Antonelli. Ruth, do you think we can see a bit more from him? Can he start putting pressure on his teammate?
I hope so. He's got a great race engineer in Bono who's working with him this year. He's got a great team. His job over the next few hours is to focus on the data, focus on the procedures, and try to get close to George. And I think he's the only driver right now that has got a good chance of doing that.
Any final thoughts, Jolyon?
Looking forward to it. I mean, you just every time you see George Russell and you just see the confidence he's got. He said, I always knew I could pass the Ferrari. I didn't know if he'd get me back. Everything from Mercedes just still screams of confidence, and I do think the rest of the field are playing catch-up. I think if you're Kimi, is that confidence taking a bit of a sap with another just rocky race with the Ferraris and the McLarens? I think it's difficult for him to turn that round into, right, let's go and beat George again. Because I think naturally at that point you think, let's get back to the front row, let's get second place and steady it. But we want to see him take the fight because he may well be the only man that can.
Yeah, we certainly do. It hasn't been smooth sailing for Kimi Antonelli, that is for sure. But those waters are clear for George Russell. It's picture perfect for him. It's 2 wins from 2 in 2026. Can he do it again? Can he get on pole for the big one, the Chinese Grand Prix tomorrow? Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be back very soon, building up to qualifying here in Shanghai. We'll see you later.
Is this the World Champion Hotline?
Let's go.
Action.
It's got my name, dude. That's dope.
Did you miss us? We're back.
We're back.
To whom it may concern, I'm back.
Thinking of Formula One?
Think again.
Everything has changed.
New rules, new modes.
New opportunities. A new era.
It's good to be back.
That was nice.
10 teams.
11 teams.
You don't make me sound dumb here, right?
24 races.
1 goal.
Are you ready?
The season starts now. It's all to drive for.